Welcome back to the Sports Ranter. Thank you to our hosts, Jake, Nick, and Ben, joining us after the finale of the 2024-2025 season. And oh, God is real. Brotherly love is true. Everybody was, the Eagles had a unique opportunity for the whole world to actually be their fan, and they came through with that. Jake, you were right. If it was a fair game, the Eagles dominate. And they did it on so many levels, and we're going to get a chance to break that down right here, guys. Or talk about the Super Bowl real quick, and then we're going to move right into what this is all truly about here at the Sports Ranter for now is fantasy football. So we're going to take that into retrospect and see if we can help you guys gain a hedge on the upcoming exciting off season going into next season, so you can go humiliate your friends, family, and neighbors. So Jake, Nick, thank you again.
Yep.
What a good time, right, on Sunday. And so, Jake, I want to pass it to you first. That's what you called it. And holy smoke, we were scared with that first penalty, right? That first penalty, we were all
I
like,
lost it. I was screaming, I jumping, I lost it.
yes. So please, after the fact, share us what happened.
Okay, so I got a few points I want to cover because there's a lot of stuff that we've talked about that's led up to this game, from the referees and all that. I bullet pointed them, so I'll try to get through it as quick as possible because I know that we want to keep flow going. First off, congratulations to Philly, the dirtiest, greasiest fan base in the world, taking home a title. But there is not a force on the planet that could have stopped the Eagles that night. They dominated. I mean, we all wanted to see the Chiefs lose, but to get physically beaten into the turf of New Orleans was absolutely the best way to end the NFL season. And so congratulations to the Eagles. I had made a claim, and I'm sure at some point Seth will hold me accountable for this, where I questioned the ability of the Eagles to pass the ball if a team stopped Saquon Barkley. And I, questioned AJ Brown and his commitment to the team and all that. And I was wrong, because the one thing the Chiefs did was they contained Saquon Barkley, and it was like the passing game the Chiefs couldn't even touch him. To have so much talent on your team like the Eagles do, to have so much talent where you can go through the entire year and say, we don't even really need to use A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and just to have that much talent just kind of just sit on the shelf until it's like, all right, yeah, now we'll use this. The Eagles looked absolutely invincible. The pressure on Mahomes was amazing, and I can't tip my hat enough. They beat the Chiefs from the coaching, the schemes, to the line, just every facet of the game. They beat them. Worst Super Bowl ever. So I'm going to get right to it. The referees and the games are rigged and this and that, because I had a lot of Chiefs fans on my social media come out and say, yeah, what do you think now? Like, you guys, all you guys, cried about the games being rigged. Now, what do you think? I think that this proves even more that the games were biased. The refs were biased in favor of the Chiefs all year long, because I'm going to ask everybody, who's the real Chiefs now? Did we see the real Chiefs now that the refs were not involved dictating the game? Or is the real Chiefs 15-1 that won, 8 games by one score thanks to a questionable call every single time? So who are the real Chiefs? But this game,
Wow.
with the officiating being the way it was, absolutely, to me, proves that the bias was there in the beginning. This was the highest viewed Super Bowl ever. The NFL got exactly what they wanted by ushering the Chiefs into the Super Bowl. You had 126 million people, and I saw some stat they gave like X million of people only watched the Super Bowl because they thought Travis Kelce was going to propose to Taylor Swift at the end of the game. So the bias was there. I will go to my grave thinking this. The NFL ushered the Chiefs in. The hype was all there. The Taylor Swift thing was there. They made a ton of money on it. And then, the one mistake that the NFL made was it became so obvious to so many people about these calls that you had ESPN analysts, all over the place, news reporters asking, Kelce and Mahomes about the the officiating. This became such a big story. There was zero chance that they were going to go out in front of 126 million viewers and make it obvious that they were going to usher the Chiefs to this championship. But they didn't need to, because the goal was reached. The viewers were there, the tickets were bought, the money was made for the NFL. So that's what I got. It's great to see Travis Kelce needs to retire. Look, love is great. You fall in love, that's awesome. He's 35 years old. He looked the most unmotivated, just the most out of shape, slow this entire season. I know that he had his stretch or whatever, but that's not a guy that looks like a leader in the locker room. I've always thought he was an asshole. It was fun to see him just get absolutely embarrassed and be a non-factor in the game. Retire, go on. You know, you've done all you can do. Don't come back and put us through this all again and embarrass yourself even more. Don't have your girlfriend get booed at the Super Bowl because we're all tired of seeing it. Just go live your life, enjoy, and that's the end of it. So, excellent way to end the NFL season. Congratulations to the Eagles. That team's going to be good for a long time. I think that team, it was loaded with talent, and they did it the right way. Offensive line, defensive line, they're going to be a tough team next year. So that's my spiel.
Fantastic, Nick. What were you seeing on Super Bowl Sunday?
I mean, again, I just want to, I have a few points and I'll try to hit on some different ones. But, I agreed with Jake last week. We all said, the Eagles should dominate this game, but we were nervous. One with the refs, but not even the refs. I will give credit where credit's due. Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes just do find a way to keep it close, and then they pull it out. But this is something we saw coming. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see it earlier. We thought, Houston could upset them, obviously the Bills, and, we're not going to get into those games again. But, I had said the frustrating part on my end was this was going to be considered the greatest team of all time if they won, or in the argument, right? And just, we're football fans, and like I try to judge, even though I'm a diehard Raider fan, I try to judge with my eyes. This was not a great team. I said that. I said that various times on the show. They are not that good. They're just not. And this proved it to me. This is what the Eagles are good, guys. The Eagles are good. They're not that good. I'm sorry. I give them credit. They got talent. Zach Vaughn, he's getting paid $1.5 million. They brought him over from a free agent. Yes, I know he played all pro. He's just good in that system. They got two rookies. Yes, I'll give them all credit. They're studs. But, like, let's not over exaggerate, the Eagles. The Eagles' offensive line was 15th in sacks this year. Okay, they were not some dominant defensive line who were just sacking everybody all over the field. They were 15th in sacks. Okay, they got Jalen Carter and then some guys. Okay, Sweat, he's okay, he's all that. I'm not trying to diminish the Eagles. What I'm trying to focus on is the Chiefs weren't that good. I talked about their line all year long. I don't like their line. Their line's not that good. But when they keep getting bailed out, when they get to do holding calls, when they get the false start, when they get to do all that, it evens a playing field. And so we got to see, again, kind of a fair game. And like Jake said, I think that the pan got too hot, right? When you got ESPN, we got networks, you got Fox Sports, you got everybody talking about the flags. Even though I felt the Patriots used to get flags, it was never broadcast like this. The media did not get involved as much like this when the Patriots wouldn't get the calls. So this was the first time I think it really got hot for one team. And like Jake said, they couldn't risk it. Plus, they were already there, so just let them play. But it was awesome to see them get dominated because the question I have for everybody, if you go out all their one-score games, the game against the Raiders, they should have lost. The game against the Bengals, they should have lost. The game, if this was a 10-6 team, or a 10-7 team that made the Super Bowl like it should have been, would we have been shocked? Would we have been surprised? Right? 10-7. I'll give them credit for let's give them credit. We've seen wild card teams make the Super Bowl. So give them credit for their playoff wins. They beat them. So let's say they make it, but they make it with the legit record that they should have had throughout all season, like Jaco said, not the number one seed and all that. They were 10-6, 10-7, 11-6 at best, right? and they're going against a 15-3 team against the Eagles, we all would have said, everybody would be like, "Oh, the Eagles are going to spank them." Like it wouldn't have been such a shock. The
Yep.
shock factor was that they kept winning all these games, and we know why, and to make them appear like they were a great team, and they just weren't. And so the other surprising thing, even them being even all them not being that great of a team, the most surprising part, it wasn't them getting shellacked. It was the domination from minute 0 to 60. That's the surprising part because everybody's got a bad day at the office. No shame there. Everybody gets shellacked here and there, but just the sheer. I mean, Andrew, you texted a couple stats like the sheer domination from 0 to 60, and you got one of the greatest. Some people say the greatest coach of all time in Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, obviously the GOAT or second GOAT. Like we were all, and I know we were all waiting for something, some type of punchback, some adjustment. You have the longest halftime of the year. They're gonna come out and make some type of adjustment. They're gonna do something. They got all these plays. Andy Reid's an offensive genius, all this stuff. The Eagles aren't even blitzing. They're just rushing four. Like you can't make any adjust. Like the Eagles weren't even doing anything crazy on defense. Line up four, play zone of seven. Like they've never seen that before. Like I just it was so weird to see them get dominated from 0 to 60 and them not making the adjustments. And that's the part where it's like, he had more passing yards as Cooper DeJean in the first half than his own players. Like that doesn't make any sense. The Eagles had more sacks than the Chiefs had first downs. Like there's all these crazy stats that just don't make any sense of the domination that it was. I mean, it was amazing to see, don't get me wrong, but it was kind of something we talked about all day, all year. I never believed in the Chiefs. They weren't that great of a team, and I'm glad we don't have to talk about them as such.
Drew, thanks for joining us. You've shared utter hatred for both teams, the Eagles and Chiefs. So what is it that you were watching on Sunday, bud?
So I had like a little chant in my house that who wins the Super Bowl? Who cares? As long as Andrew makes money on Prize Picks. That's what that's what mattered. And
And did you?
to be fair, okay. To be fair, dude, in the first half, it couldn't have been better. Like I would almost greenlighted 4 out of 6 in the first half. The only two I really was leaning on were DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown, right? I needed DeAndre Hopkins to get 20 yards, and I needed Hollywood Brown to get 4 catches. I'm like, dude, it couldn't be better. 24-0 at half. They're going to adjust, right? Like, of course they're going to adjust. I was like, I almost was starting to celebrate. Like, dude, I'm about to get like $2,900 off $34 because I greenlighted, because I long shotted it. I was like, fuck it, it's the last game of the year. I'm going to go for like no flex plays, no nothing. I'm just going for gold. And I'm like, bro, I'm right there. I'm right there. And then so when Mahomes scrambled out, and then threw it to DeAndre Hopkins, and I'm talking about nobody was even close to DeAndre Hopkins. And he still threw such a bad pass that even the sure-handed DeAndre Hopkins, who's arguably the most sure-handed receiver we've ever seen play, drops the ball. I'm just like, oh my God, bro. And then, of course, he finishes with 18, and he doesn't get it. And Hollywood Brown, I think, got like 1 catch. I'm like, what the fuck? But anyways, so the long story short, no, the Super Bowl sucked. I was expecting some sort of entertainment. I was expecting some sort of, I mean, I can arguably say that the halftime show was almost better than the freaking actual Super Bowl. And if you guys actually look into that Kendrick Lamar halftime show, there's a lot of shit in there. That goes pretty deep. He actually, shout out to Kendrick Lamar. He did a lot of shit that was insane ballsy with the president in the building, by the way. Take a look at it, Ben. I know all you guys are pretty political, way more political than I am. Go back and look at that halftime show.
I haven't watched
Out of here.
halftime
He's
show
just
in
talking
60.
slavery. Kendrick Lamar.
No. I'm saying like just there's some shit in there
Don't
that is
get me
pretty
started
wild.
with this, Drew. Stay on the Eagles and 49ers, please.
There's some pretty wild stuff that he said in there, and it was whatever. Arguably a really good halftime show for Kendrick Lamar. But long story short, yeah, the Super Bowl sucked. It was terrible. Absolutely horrible. Yeah, I mean, the Eagles have now done everything that I didn't think they were going to do this year. Like, they really did. Like, I mean, shout out to the Eagles. They literally have done all levels of the game, and I didn't expect them to string it together, and they didn't for most of the year. And then towards the end, they really started playing as a team. I mean, Jalen Hurts started playing well. Everybody else, they played really, really fantastic complementary football. And dude, hats off to them, man. Like, they really did well. The big stages where it mattered the most, they showed up, and shout out to them, man. Like, they really did it. So,
well, thanks for
hats
your
off.
honesty, Drew. I appreciate that. And it's kind of funny you mentioned that, Nick. Like, because I saw a Chiefs fan TikTok say the same thing you did. It's like, was this really the Chiefs we watched? Now I feel like a Bills fan. Now I feel like the entire world. Like, I truly feel like now it was rigged because it was a hot play that the whole world was watching, and it just, something was weird about a 4-3 defense. Only 4 guys going murder on Pat Mahomes. I don't think we've seen it in a long time, guys. 3 sacks in a row on like 2 separate drives. It was insanity. Like, they had no answer. You could see his feet pedaling around, and so, but the world got what they wanted. I'm sorry Drew was upset out of the way. I hope he made some money. But we have to end this part with a question. Number 1, congratulations, Seth. Thank you for chatting us with it today and for your Eagles winning. And we have a few chatters here. Jesus and Angel. Angel wants to ask Jake, can we really blame Taylor at all? Like, she was being booed on the mega drive. Can we blame Taylor at all, Jake?
Nobody ever blamed Taylor Swift, and I've been saying this for a while. Just because, listen, the average NFL fan and the people that are booing her, we're not booing her. Great for her that she makes all this effort to have these tours, and then she comes and supports her boyfriend and all this and that. It's the fact that the NFL is profiting on something that is so blatantly obvious to the average NFL fan, like. Right. This team is being ushered along because they are profiting. It's not Taylor Swift. It's not anything to do with her directly. It's just the fact that the league that we watch, that we invest our time and have invested all our time, is catering to this pop star and catering to promoting the team that she is backing. And so, yeah, you get sick of it. I have no ill will towards Taylor Swift or anything like that. I actually the fact, I don't know why people are booing her, other than she's not asking to be on TV and have all this publicity or anything like that. It ain't like that. It's just that we're tired of the NFL using that angle, that storyline, to profit from it. I've never been pissed at anything about, her being there. It's just, we get tired. We don't want to see her. I'm not a 15-year-old girl. I don't give any shit about Taylor Swift. I don't want to keep seeing the camera pan to her every time Travis Kelce, who I fucking despise to this. I absolutely hate that fucking guy. So glad. I'm so glad. I hope this is his last game, because I swear to God, I hope that this is how people remember him. But it's just
not going to happen.
It's just we get tired. We get tired of it. Like, we've gotten tired of it. We were tired of it last year, and it was the favoritism and the bias with the referees and the calls were so blatantly obvious this year that it's just, every time you see Taylor Swift, it just adds fuel to that fire. Like, it's like they're pushing the Chiefs to keep promoting this. If you look at the stats and look at the numbers of the viewership that they say she brought in, the revenue for the Chiefs, and the fact that this was the highest watched Super Bowl ever, like, the NFL is getting exactly what they want, and they're shoving it in our faces, and she's just she's the first thing we see being shoved into our face. But I don't hate Taylor Swift. I just don't want to ever see her again when I tune in to watch football.
Our chatter Angel, the one who asked the question, also wanted to point out that you did talk about how much you hate Travis Kelce with your mostly peaceful shirt on.
Hey, this is from the Summer of Love with the BLM riots, where the news anchors were standing out there in front of burning cars and buildings and they said the riot, these are mostly peaceful
Oh, God.
protests. Well, the whole
Oh,
city's
no.
burning down. So yeah, this is for that. So
I'm
yeah,
dying.
I'm mostly peaceful.
I'm
Look,
dying.
I want to bring it back to the game because I still have a couple
Okay,
more
okay,
points to
okay.
make, and because I just have to because yeah, it's a
Cool.
Super Bowl.
Go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
one, I gotta give Nick Sirianni credit. Like we've hated on him, and like I said, I want to be truthful to our viewers. We said we hate the guy, we don't want him to win, all that stuff. You know, and whether he's still a douchebag or not really doesn't matter. Two Super Bowls in 3 years. Now you win one. Now you dominate the team that's going for a three-peat that everybody, like I said, was ranting and raving about. Regardless of what we thought of the Chiefs, it was still, still immense pressure on the game. You've already lost one. The whole reading book on the sideline, and you do, dude. At the end of last year, people saying fire him. At the beginning of this year, they're 2-2. Fire him. Hot seat. I heard all that, and you know what? You got to give credit where credit is due. Like he's gonna lose his fourth offensive coordinator. Like
Yeah,
he's losing coordinators left and right, and he's made two Super Bowls in the last 3 years. Like, and then the one year they didn't, they faltered at the end of the year last year. They started 10-1. Like he's had success the entire time he's been there. Whether you like the dude or not, apparently he can coach. That I mean, I can't say it any other way. Apparently, the guys believe they come to play on Sunday. Like I don't know what else to say because all the other stuff that we see would say no, this guy's not gonna make it. Like he's a douchebag, but that's not the case. Like that was one, and then the other thing is I think this is the first time we legitimately saw Patrick Mahomes rattle. Jake, you and Ben, you kind of alluded to it.
what
Like
the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay? I forgot to
he
bring
was
that up.
not rattled. If you watch that game, he actually played very well. The stats. So it's kind of weird. So if you switch the stats, so if you look at his stats in the Tampa Bay game, they're a lot worse than what Mahomes played. Like there was a lot of drop pass. I don't know if you guys remember. Like he had some scrambling jump throws that hit guys in their hands, and they dropped, and like the plays he was making that didn't happen in that game versus the garbage stats he got in this game, like it's reversed. Like if you look at his stat line for this game, you're like, oh, it's 5 years from now, people are gonna be like, oh no, it wasn't that bad. Like 3 touchdowns, two something. This is no, that was all garbage time when the Eagles defense wasn't even playing defense anymore, and they put the subs in on the last touchdown, all that stuff. So in that, and then again, in that game too was a little different because we all went in knowing kind of that was going to happen. His two tackles were out. His guard was missing. Like they're like, dude, they got no one to protect. Tampa's going to shred that O line. No one said that this game. Now that's always the game plan. It's not that you never hear, oh, you got to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. We say that every week. We say that against every great quarterback. The way you beat him, you got to get pressure on Patrick Mahomes with four. But no one can ever do it. And like I said, the Eagles defense wasn't a monster defensive line this year. They're good. Don't get me wrong. Number one defense, all that stuff. They're good as a unit, but as a whole defense, they weren't that like great as a unit. If you look at, like I said, stats are 15th in the league. It's average. They got 40 sacks this year. Great. It's not like they're going around. So that there, I saw a lot of plays. They had a reel and stuff like Patrick Mahomes, and obviously they allude to like Sam Darnold, like he's seeing ghosts. Like there's a couple dropbacks where if you really look at it, he never sets his feet. He drops back and his feet are moving. Like he's already moving. Dude, we've never seen him do that. We've never seen him like he's usually calm, cool, collective. He'll drop back, and if you do put pressure on him, he slides out, finds a hole, and the Eagles did an amazing job to have no lanes. And dude, he was dancing the
Yeah,
whole.
he was
And
shell shocked.
yeah, it just. I think it was. I was something on along those lines because there's no other way to explain it. Like it's like I said, it's not like okay, they weren't playing some exotic defense he's never seen before. I think it was a shock in that my O line is healthy. This is the O line we've been playing with. Even though Joe Tooney moved to guard, he had been playing tackle the entire time, and they've had their best games, their best games all year. So, no excuses. They have their line. They went in that game thinking we're gonna block them just fine, and once they realized they couldn't, like it was a shock. Like I just it was something that was unexpected, and it was crazy to see. And I hope, honestly, as a Raider fan, I kind of hope it continues. Now, I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is not going to be great. What I mean that like there's a possibility that the mystique is kind of over, or like at least not as great anymore. Like other teams are going to finally because this was the real first time where it's like, okay, because even the games he had lost, he lost in overtime, he lost in field goal. Like when you get, and again, it's different than the Tampa one because that had built-in excuses because everybody kind of knew he had three missing linemen. Like he had no chance. In this game, full force, Marquise Brown's healthy. Like they were the healthiest they ever were all year long. Like there was no excuses this game, and they, like I said, they got dominated from 0 to 60. And I think just for hopefully other AFC teams, the Bills, the Ravens, all that, who kind of need an extra confidence, who kind of they're mentally a little weak against the Chiefs, I would say, because they've lost so many times to them that this kind of gives them kind of not a blueprint because it's hard to replicate what the Eagles did, but just kind of like that mystique, like, hey, you can rattle Mahomes, you can get to him, you can, possibly beat him. So, I think it's going to help out for years to come, hopefully, because we got to remember Tom Brady didn't win for like 10 years, right? Like it took him 10 years to get back to the Super Bowl. Like it takes a while, once you kind of lose your mojo to get back there, and it took him a long time. So I pray for the league, Jake, like everything we talk about, like hopefully we don't have to see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl every year moving forward from now on.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's gonna be the three teams no matter what. It's three teams in the AFC for the next 10 years, bro.
No,
That's
it's
really what it
no,
is.
it's not.
It is. It
No,
is.
it's not.
It's gonna be Lamar. It's gonna be the Bills, or it's gonna be Mahomes, and then a sprinkle every once in a while of Joe Burrow. Those are the four quarterbacks, and those are the four teams for and you don't even know about the Bengals yet, because who knows what's gonna happen with T Higgins and whatnot and everything else. So, but those are the three for sure, and then the Bengals sprinkle in every once in a while, and that's to me the AFC for the next 10 years. It just is. Like unless there's like an absolute like surprise, that's what it is. Like that's just who it is. It's gonna be like that for a long time. The NFC is a open gate, pretty much year in year out. That's just how it's gonna be because the quarterback play isn't as good in the NFC.
Well,
I mean, there's some truth just because of quarterbacks, but like, first of all, injuries always come into play. Second of all, like, as much as I hate to say it, you still got Harbaugh and Herbert together. He's still relatively young. You got CJ Stroud you're forgetting about. Houston could have beat Chiefs this year. What I'm saying is that there's still more variability. You're right. And yeah, four teams. Okay, I just added two more. Hey, if I got at least six teams, seven teams who got a shot instead of every year, it's dude, the last 3 years, honestly, it's like the Chiefs and we hope the Bills beat them. That's what it's been. It hasn't been three, four, five teams. The Bengals made it once, what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? Like it's been the Chiefs and then maybe one team. We're all crossing our fingers, hoping Baltimore beats them or hoping the Bills beat them. Now I think it's legit, like you're saying. If of course there's never 12 teams who can win the Super Bowl. That's never any year. But
But
if you have like
the
six,
change,
seven teams who have a legit shot, who got the coaches who are capable, and the quarterbacks that are capable, they have a shot.
the Chiefs are gonna be still in the thick of it, bro. I get
I
they
didn't
will
say
have.
they're not.
I know, but
They're one of the
they're
seven, is
not
what
going
I'm
to
saying.
fall off. Like they're not going to fall drastically. They still have Spagnola there. Yeah, Kelsey. Who knows? I still think he's going to stay. I think he's going to play. Yeah, is he getting older? Sure, but are you going to have a healthy Marquise Hollywood Brown? Yes. Is Rasheed Rice coming back? Yes.
Okay, but what
Like
about Kelsey?
See,
Kelsey's been a staple there the whole time. You're
the
telling
thing
me
is,
Noah Gray is gonna scare defenses? Get out of here.
I'm
the
just
thing
saying
is
that
though, like with the
I
Chiefs,
doubt
though,
he leaves.
the
I
thing is with
really
the
really
Chiefs
doubt he
though,
leaves.
like at what point though, like we just got done talking about, and Drew, I guess me and Nick jump on this topic a lot more. Like who are the real Chiefs? Like they could, like Nick said, they could have easily, if one call per game goes the other way or isn't a flag isn't thrown, they're 10-7. The Chiefs, especially, Nick, I get what you're saying. Like maybe they were exposed. Maybe there was something there like that teams can look at and be like, okay, they contained Mahomes this way or whatever. Like what I'm saying though is the Chiefs are the Chiefs wide receiving core this year was made up of a bunch of 1-year deals coming in. Like Kelsey is getting older. That O line every year seems like another piece is trickling off here and there. Like Mahomes, as great as he is, or as great as whatever the case may be, like there is going to come a point where you have to kind of rebuild some of these other spots. These other, you're going to have to rebuild at some point. Like Nick said, they could have easily been 10-7, and then this could have been the least watched Super Bowl that we've ever seen.
My whole point, Andrew, you just got to remember, I'm talking about their mystique. When Tom Brady, when they finally lost, like when Peyton Manning got over the hump, like, it took Bill Belichick, greatest coach of all time, and Tom Brady 10 more years before they got back there. They had a 10-year window. Were they in the playoffs? Absolutely. They won the AFC, NFC, or AFC East every year. No one said they're not in the thick of things. But what I'm saying is teams go in playing the Patriots saying they're beatable now. They're like DeAndre Hopkins said, he's human. He said it. His own team. He's human, guys. Why would he say that? Why would he say that? Because we all have a mystique thinking Patrick Mahomes not human. He's going to find a way to win.
The Chiefs have also kind of had the luxury of playing in up to this year a very, very weak AFC West. Like it's like every year since basically Mahomes became the star, it's like it's like already you're winning.
It's gonna get a lot tougher.
Yeah, you're winning the West. Yeah, this is now a legit division again.
Which the Patriots also had that same luxury because the Bills, Dolphins, and Jets were garbage the entire time Tom Brady was there, so they got to do in. But no, I'm just saying the mystique. I'm hoping there's a 10-year drought, just like Tom Brady. Like, of course they're going to be in the playoffs. I'm just saying. I hope Josh Allen gets over the hump, finally beats them, just like Peyton Manning. Obviously Lamar, all those other teams, and if the Raiders can get sprinkled in there eventually, fine. But as of right now, we need a quarterback before I can talk. So.
Enough Chiefs talk. Fuck them.
Before we move on to the next segment, which we are to finish the show, and kind of clear what Andrew said, diving, kind of foreshadowing on the halftime show. Okay, it's only obvious and it feels great. Go ahead and put it out there that the tides are turning, guys. We have a new president. We have a new Lombardi Trophy winners, and yes, hopefully new people in the AFC come out and keep them down, because that's what we need in the future to just make everything great again. Okay, so
make football great again.
So we got to move on to fantasy. We only have some times left, guys. We want to just real quickly throw it out there. Well, after the season, after these rewards that we see, we won't go through them like we talked, Jake. We'll just move forward because we only have so much time left. But we want to know what we can take from this year, whatever a mid-round guy or whatever it is that we saw. What can we take from this year that we know for sure is going to transpire into next year, or may not? Okay, but obviously we still have some changes coming up. We are going to have some more coaches changes. We're going to have the free agency market will be opening, and obviously what we like is draft day, and we're going to cover that all the way till the end of April. But I just want to ask you guys to close this show out. What can we take from last year that we know will move on to next year or not? So go ahead, Drew, take it off.
I mean, when we're talking about like these breakout style players or these people who have shown flashes and this, that, and the other that look promising, I mean, the biggest thing is not to fall in love with the man crush right away, right? I mean, because then obviously you're gonna overdraft, right? You're gonna fall in love and be thinking that somebody's gonna try to steal him or this, that, and the other, so you're gonna end up taking a little bit earlier. But somebody like Rashee Rice, right? Coming back from an injury, people are going to forget about him a little bit. They might remember this game and say, oh, the Chiefs were terrible last time they played or this, that, and the other. But if you can get a guy like Rashee Rice in the mid-rounds, I think he'll definitely pay off for you. I think there's an absolute connection there. And yes, we're talking about Travis Kelce and this, that, and the other. Before Rashee Rice got hurt, he was out targeting Travis Kelce by a long shot. That is Mahomes' go-to guy when he is healthy, and you're going to be able to get him probably for 6th round, 7th round pick because he's going to be forgotten about, just like he was forgotten about in this round because of the case with the DUI stuff and everything else. Who knows if that re-trickles, because it definitely still could re-trickle into this upcoming year. Something that we have to keep an eye on, right? Because if it's going to happen, it's going to happen this year where he's going to get suspended. So it's always an off-season situation where you have to follow along with the legal battles and this, that, and the other of everybody else that is a thug player that you're thinking about getting because they get suspended around that time, the following year. But the old tires keep ticking, right? Like guys like Alvin Kamara, like can he continue to keep producing? He caught fire to the start, flamed out at the end. Ask Nick, he knows. Some of these guys, hey, I'm just saying, like I called it. I loved Kamara. I absolutely love him. Like he still was probably a top. I'm assuming at least a top 10. So it's just one of those things where
running backs were.
It's just one of those things where you have to keep in your mind, like, can these older guys still continue to contribute? James Conner, right? Everybody was like, oh, he's an ultimate value pick this year. Will he be the same value pick next year? He's never once played a full season healthy. Never. Is he something that you want to risk, like as a 7th or 8th rounder in the next year? You possibly could. I mean, the Cardinals have a pretty legit offense, and I think Harrison Jr. is only going to get better, and college connections with that's going to be better. So the red zone efficiency can still be there. But another year on James Conner, who's already kind of old and already trying to, it's knowing what you're going to get yourself into and the risk that you're getting yourself into with the pick, right? So you want to, if you're going to take somebody later on in the mid round, you have to have some sort of red zone efficiency, or you have to have some sort of catching upside that is not normal. So especially in the running back position. Otherwise, you're really going to struggle if you can't get that in the end. If you can't get a red zone efficient guy or a high octane offense for a running back, somebody like even like a Raheem Mostert this year, who you thought was going to be pretty good, he didn't have the red zone efficiency. Therefore, he wasn't that great of a pick. He just flamed out. Yeah, injuries also sparked it up, but those are kind of the things that you have to look into. You have to look in somebody who can get a red zone feed. But it's just all that kind of stuff. Yeah, offensive coordinator is always going to be something you want to look into. Kellen Moore, he's going to go to the Saints.
Because nobody else wanted that job.
Like I'm just saying, but look what Kellen Moore did, right? Saquon, they ran 53% of the time. Like you're bringing that style of offense, and Kellen Moore just before that made CeeDee Lamb an absolute stud. Right? I mean, CeeDee Lamb's already a stud, but he targets the players that he has, and he makes them the most efficient as they can be. So that's just the way I've seen it. Like, the last couple of years, that's how he is. So you're going to look at these guys. Huh?
Unless you coach for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Sure. He skipped over that year.
But I mean, those even then, like they still had decent. They still offensive production wise, they didn't do terrible.
Yeah, statistically, they had a lot of guys that for fantasy, produce. But anyway.
Yeah. So just look into those guys. I can't think of the receiver I'm thinking of from the Saints to save my life.
Olave?
Olave, thank you. Olave is something that you might want to look into because he's at that turn now where it's like a lot of people are starting to fall off on him because he hasn't had that monster jump that you felt like he was going to have.
I think he had more concussions than catches last year.
With somebody with Kellen Moore's mind, I think he can actually get him going. Same thing with Alvin Kamara. Like you're going to bring in a guy who caters an offense to studs. Kamara can still eat. We'll see.
That one hurt, Jake. That one hurt. More concussions than catches. You're right. I had a lot for y'all right on my bench all season long, including the championship game versus back-to-back Nick here. So anyways, Jake, same thing, same question, man. What is you, in retrospective, what are you seeing from last season that you hope continues and sure as hell may not, like Aaron Rodgers in New York?
I actually, the big thing in fantasy this year was like it was the return of the running backs and all that. I actually don't think that that's going to last.
Wow.
I think we're going to go. I think we're going to see a lot of receivers, bust out again. I still you're still going to have your running backs like Derrick Henry, probably Saquon, of course Saquon, but that obviously you know they're the monsters of the running backs, but there's just too many receivers in this league right now that are just, I mean, look at the rookies and the numbers that Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas are putting up. I've always myself gone into the fantasy draft season where like I want to stay away from these rookies that are projected in the third, fourth, fifth rounds, just because in the past, rookie wide receivers take a little bit of time to develop and get accustomed to the offense and develop rapport with the quarterbacks. That's not the case anymore. I'm in 6 leagues, and not one league did I have Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, because I looked at them as rookies and they had bad quarterbacks on
Conky.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like it was just I stayed away from all of them. When it got to those rounds where it was like, yeah, I could take a Malik Neighbors or a Brian Thomas, but there's a guy like Jamison Williams who's played or what. It's like I'm always taking the guy with more experience or the guy on the better offense. So I got to move away from that. Look at the. I think the biggest thing to kind of like dumb it down, because the average fantasy, I think, player, I think that most of us are not always paying attention to offensive coordinators, what they've done in the past, where they're moving. Like it's like there's a very small percentage of fantasy football players that actually really focus in on that stuff. But I I always try to say, listen, like when you get to these like find good offenses, good quarterbacks, teams that are going to score points. At the end of the day, you want your fantasy players to score points. It doesn't help if you go ahead and draft Calvin Ridley because he's such a good value in the 10th round in every league that you have, and they are on the Titans with Will Levis, because it's just garbage. It's a terrible offense. So look, keep it simple. Look at draft stock. If you got teams that are drafting as receivers with the 6th, 7th, 8th overall pick, clearly that's going to be a focal point of that team for the next few years moving forward. Draft capital is big, and keep it simple. Like teams that score a lot of points, teams that score a lot of points are going to give your players that you draft that are on that team more opportunity to score points. So, but yeah, my biggest thing this year is like I have always been a guy that stays away from rookie wide receivers, and that this year really proved me wrong. So, going back to what I was saying, how I think it's going to transition. This was kind of an anomaly where running backs ruled the fantasy world. There are so many. We had a lot of good, fantastic receivers: Jefferson, Chase, Garrett Wilson, that have been in their third, fourth year now. But I mean, my God, like the rookie class, and then even the Jackson Smith and Jigbas, and there's a lot of really good wide receivers and a lot of really good, situations with teams and quarterbacks. So, but yeah, that's what I got. So
Fantastic. Back to back, Nick. You're doing this multiple
Well,
years in a
well,
row. So
as
going into
the
a third
Chiefs
year,
of
three
the
cheat.
league
Come on,
going
three
for a
cheat.
three-peat,
my
um,
God.
I disagree with Jake a little bit. What I learned is the
Ooh.
running backs are back, and
Yeah,
I
this
don't
year.
mind. I will, you know, I will draft my running backs early again. That's my strategy going in, not to ruin it for you guys. But my whole thing, and I've always preached this, value in roster construction. Like roster construction is key. You have to have a game plan going in. If sometimes it changes on draft day. Like I said, I'll be honest. I didn't know I was gonna go running back, running back, running back. But you know what? Like you have to see what value falls to you. Go with your gun instinct. Don't just say, "Oh well, I drafted 2 running backs, so I need a receiver." Well, look at the board. Where's your value? If like I said, I'm just using my year as an example. Like if I dominate in the running back position, it's okay if my receivers are a little weak. And like Jake was saying, though, my thing is there's a lot of receivers. There's a lot of receivers. So I would rather take the risk on or get my bell cow running backs and get receivers late. That's just how I roster you know my lineup. But again, let's just say 2 years ago, I went the Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes thing. Like that really didn't win me the league, but that set me up with my game plan. That was my strategy. So if I said, hey, if I'm drafting Travis Kelce, I have to double dip him with Mahomes. Like that was the strategy. That was the roster construction because I knew drafting a tight end in the first round was going to hinder me in the running back and receiver room. That obviously we were hoping it was going to be the Mahomes of old, but the last 2 years it hasn't been. But I needed to capitalize and I needed to have one up in those two scenarios where my quarterback and my tight end are going to make up for the points that maybe my running backs or receivers don't do. So focus on roster construction. Like that is key when it comes to the draft. But I think where the running backs might come back down to earth, and like Jake was saying, is it was a year of a lot of health. I'll just say it that way. There wasn't a
Yeah.
lot of running backs other than obviously the McCaffrey, but that was pre. First of all, all the main running backs stayed relatively healthy.
Yep.
Actually, a lot of the receivers were the ones that got hurt this year. So
Yep.
that's where I do caution a little bit, and I kind of agree with Jake where it might, but where I disagree is that we've been saying this like the passing game is not what it used to be. Like you don't see quarterbacks throwing for 5,000 yards. You don't see, 50 touchdowns anymore. You don't like quarterbacks are in their 20s now. Like Bears, if you get 30, you're winning the MVP almost. Like it's very the passing game's not as elite as it was when the receivers were just dominating the fantasy league. So that's where I think running backs have gotten their value back.
The,
That's why they made such a big impact. I think the last 2 years, but more obviously this year.
the thing with the running
Oh,
backs, though, the thing with the running backs, sorry, Nate, I just
Go
real
ahead.
quick.
Yeah, no, that was it.
The thing with the running backs, though, from what I'm seeing, is every year for the last few, we see all these fantastic young receivers coming in. Like we have Brees Hall, we had Bijan Robinson. Like, is anyone taking like Bijan? I mean, I know that I guess overall, he didn't have a lot of weeks that won you weeks and stuff, but there's not like a lot of great running backs coming in that are impacting fantasy like there are receivers. So, it's like the running backs that are that were the studs: Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley. Like, you're right, there was no injuries, but like there's not like an influx of running backs coming in. You had Bucky Irving, like, but I don't know. It's like Alvin Kamara's fading out. There's so many good receivers every year coming in because the NFL is just gravitating more and more towards the passing and all that. That it's like, like going back to Rashee Rice, like I'm not touching Rashee Rice. Why? Xavier Worthy. Like how much of that pie is he going to cut into? And so it's just you can find receivers everywhere, which I do agree with Nick. Like getting a bell, if you are in a spot in the first round to get that bell cow, like that is going to get a bunch of touchdowns, it's so much easier to find receivers later on because there's so many of them. But there is not an influx of running backs coming in like there is receivers. So that's all I got to say about that.
I think you
Chuba
guys are,
Hubbard, Bucky Irving, you're gonna have gently coming in. You don't need a
Who
lot of guys.
knows?
well, look, what's going to transpire to the next season, like I believe it transpires every fantasy football season, is kind of like you guys are saying, running backs, or receivers. The idea is a fantasy football manager, for our viewers, for our man Mike, who needs to help a championship game next year and not be last place, our new chatter here. What we like to do here is chase value. And so rather than figure it out, stack your team with as many running backs and wide receivers as you can in your draft day, right? Whatever it may be. An upside rookie or a new or a running back that's solid. Stack them because you're going to have injuries, you're going to have situations. And what will transpire is that you should always go for a late round quarterback, okay? I'm not against drafting the big dog if he's there and once you've loaded, but you should wait. You should wait for that quarterback, whether it be a waiver wire pickup like Baker Mayfield or just someone who produces just enough while the rest of your team goes off. You can count more on your waiver wire pickups every week and a late quarterback to get you those fantasy points, to get you to your championship, so you can go humiliate all your friends, your family, and your coworkers. And so, with that said, to end the show, fantasy, we're gonna figure out a way to break down the offseason, guys. Maybe do a state of the franchise, coaches, agents, draft day. We're gonna figure out a way to give you the best fantasy information going forward. But to close out the show, talking about last year, you guys all thought it was crazy when I drafted Chuba Hubbard up and down the leagues. Okay, bing, bang, boom. I'm going to put it out here right now. The late quarterback, who I may not even draft, he'll probably still be sitting there in the waiver wire next year. My man, Bryce Young, is going to go off next year right now. I'm telling you right now. He's the guy who's going to go off. And just watch. I don't care if you guys think that's crazy. Okay? Just watch. Bryce Young's going to have rushing touchdowns like crazy. And he's going to be effective. So people are laughing in the chats already. They're thinking they're laughing in the chats just like you guys were laughing at me about Chuba Hubbard. But
hey Ben, you go ahead. I guarantee you, I'm not touching him. So
yeah, I'm sure he'll be there for you.
You're good on my mind. I will guarantee you right now, I'm not drafting him. 100%.
It's good to know.
You're good.
I will say I can see a world where he does finish in the top 12. I really do. Like I wouldn't be shocked. But
That's fine. It happens every year. I'm just saying I'm not drafting him.
Yeah.
Like I didn't say it's not possible. I just said I'm not drafting him. I'm not taking that chance. Is what all I'm saying.
It ain't gonna be me, but he can be there.
Well, like I said, thanks to our viewers. Thanks to the world for watching. We're gonna have a nice plan going forward, going into next week's every Tuesday. And just to give you guys a reminder, we're going all the way into the end of April till after draft day to talk about fantasy football. So thank you, Mike, Jesus, Seth, for joining us. Congratulations. Until next time, peace be the journey, and one love.
Yeah. Hey, real quick. A real good idea.